What's up guys? So today what we're going to be doing is we've been doing a bunch of stuff with quadratic equations and we've been solving by factoring. That's been the hard thing we've been doing for the past couple of weeks. So today what we're going to be looking at is another way that you can solve for the quadratic formula or solve for a quadratic is by using the quadratic formula. So today I'm going to show you that formula and we're going to use it. Okay, just so y'all know, this formula is actually on your STAR reference sheet. So if you ever forget it, you can just go look at the sheet and you'll be able to use it there. So here we go. So the first thing that we need to talk about is whenever it comes to quadratic formula is whenever you write this, it has to be in standard form. So whenever we do this, we have to put it in standard form first. So we have to remember that if I'm writing a quadratic equation, a standard form is known as ax squared plus bx plus c. And then I have to set it equal to 0. So the a is the first number, the b is the second number, the c is the third number. So when it comes to the quadratic equation, this is what the quadratic equation is. So it's going to be x equals negative b plus or minus. Remember that plus or minus means we have to do a positive version and a negative version. And then the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So right now, this formula will find any solution to any quadratic equation. Now, I want you guys to make sure you understand that if you end up solving for this guy right now, into the square root, that's called the discriminant. So that's going to tell you how many solutions there are, okay? So right now, if I'm working with this and I end up working this out and this ends up being a negative number, then that means there's no solutions. If it turns out to be 0, that means there's one solution. If it turns out to be any whole number, then that means there's 2 solutions. So right now, the way that we use the quadratic formula is I'm literally going to take the a and stick it in for the a's. I'm going to take the b, plug it in for the b's, and I'm going to take the c and plug it into the c, and then I'm going to solve it, and then it's going to give me my 2 equations. So let's go ahead and jump to our examples. So let's look at number 1. Okay, so on example number 1, the first thing that we need to do is we need to recognize what my a, b, and c are. So this is my a, this is my b, and this is my c. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to write out the quadratic equation. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug the a into the a's, the b into the b, and the c into the c's. So right now I'm going to erase the b, and b is 5 in this instance, so I'm going to plug in 5. The b is 5, so I'm going to plug in 5. The a is 4, so I'm going to plug in 4. And the c is negative 7, I'm going to plug in negative 7. And the a is going to be 4 as well. So okay, and now my a is 4. Man, that took a while to do. Okay, so now I'm going to do what's inside the parentheses right now. So 5 squared is 25. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. Negative 16 times negative 7 is going to be positive 112. If I add that together, that's going to give me 137. So right now, inside my radical, all of this is going to turn into 137. So right now, since that is a whole number in there, that tells me there's going to be 2 solutions. Again, if that number in there is 0, that's going to be 1 solution. If that number comes out to be a negative, that means there's no solutions, okay? And then 2 times 4 down here is going to end up giving me 8. So right now I told you I have a plus version and a negative version of this. So right now I'm going to write this in 2 different ways. I'm going to have negative 5 plus the square root of 137 divided by 8. And then I'm going to have negative 5 minus the square root of 137 divided by 8. So if I go and type that into the calculator, that's going to give me a decimal. If I go and type that into the calculator, that's going to give me a decimal as well. Okay, so if I do negative 5 plus the square root of 137 divided by 8, that is going to end up giving me 0.838. And then if I do negative 5 minus the square root of 137, that's going to end up giving me negative 2.088. So that's how you can do it by hand if you needed to do it by hand. Now what we're going to do, okay, so if I do, all right, so let's look at number 2, okay? So again, first thing we got to do is recognize the A, the B, and the C. So this is my A, this is my B, and this is my C. So that's negative 7, and that's negative 6. So I got to plug those into my formula. So the first thing you can do is go ahead and write out your formula. So you got negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. Okay, now I'm just going to replace. So I'm going to take the B, which is negative 7. I'm going to take the B, which is negative 7. This is why it's important to put negative 7, because if I do negative 7 squared without the parentheses, then it'll be a negative number. Okay, so the A value is 5. My C value is negative 6. And my A value is 5 again. Okay, so now let's go ahead and simplify inside the parentheses. So negative 7 times negative 7 is 49. Negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. Negative 20 times negative 6 would be positive 120. Okay. And so now I'm going to take the 49 and 20 and add it together. So that's going to end up giving me 169. Okay. So right now, since that's a whole number, remember, if it's a whole number, that's going to be one solution. If it's if it's a whole number, that means there's going to be 2 solutions. If it's 0, then it's 1 solution. If it's a negative number, then it means undefined. There's no solution. So all this in here is going to end up being 169. Well, if I end up doing the square root of 169, that's actually going to turn into 13. Okay? Now, negative 7 is going to turn into positive 7. And then 2 times 5 is going to end up giving me 10. And so now I told you got to do 2 different ones. You got to add and subtract. So we're going to do 7 plus 13 divided by 10. And we're going to do 7 minus 13 divided by 10. Well, 7 plus 13 is 20. Divided by 10 is 2. So your first solution is going to be 2. 7 minus 13 is going to end up giving me 6, or actually negative 6. And then negative 6 over 10 would end up reducing to negative 3/5. So your second equation, or your second answer, is going to be negative 3/5 whenever I reduce that. So ladies and gentlemen, those would be your 2 solutions working longhand if you wanted to work that way. Okay? All right, so now on example number 3, I'm actually going to show you how to do it in Desmos. And this is the testing Desmos, so you know it'll work on your test when you take it in April. Okay, so the first thing we need to recognize is what my A, B, and C is. So what you guys need to remember is when we're recognizing this, it's written in standard form. So that would be AX squared plus BX plus C. So remember, the B is what is next to the X. So I need to actually flip-flop these 2. So this is my A. This is going to be my C because there's nothing next to it. And this is my, so I need to flip-flop these 2. So I'm going to rewrite it as 3x squared minus 8x minus 3. So now this is my A, this is my B, and this is my C. So right now what you can do in Desmos is you have that reference sheet to write down or type in the quadratic equation. Now remember that plus minus means a positive and a negative version. So I need to type it in 2 different versions. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to start by pressing divide. And at the very top I'm going to type it in. So negative B plus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So that is going to be the quadratic equation written with the positive version. Now I need to do the same thing with the negative version. So watch, I'm literally going to copy all of this and I'm going to paste it down here, but I'm going to change this to a negative value. Now watch this. Now that I got my formula put in, I need to plug the A in for the A, the B in for the B, and the C in for the C. So watch this trick. Now on my next 3 lines, I'm going to type in A equals, B equals, and C equals. And so now, since I've recognized what A, B, and C are, I'm now going to type those in. So A is going to be 3. B is going to be -8, and C is going to be -3. And then when I scroll up here, if you look, I got my two answers, +3, and then -0.3333 repeated is actually going to end up giving me a fraction of -1/3. So these would be my two zeros, ladies and gentlemen, okay? So now let's go and do the same thing with number 4, okay? So right now, let's roll over to number 4, all right? So now, all I have to do is change my A, B, and C value. So right now, on this guy, this is already written in standard form. So this would be my A value, this would be my B value, and this would be my C value. So now all I gotta do is replace. So your A value is gonna be -1, your B value is gonna be 4, and your C value is going to be 2. And so now whenever I scroll up, you see these would be my two solutions written in decimal form, ladies and gentlemen. So that is how you can simply use the quadratic equation to solve for any quadratic whenever given to you, okay? Let me know if you have any questions.